Been a while since we covered the text conversation. My player got mad. His response, after splitting from the party and being told that he had to roll a new character, after, we told him he would have to roll a new character if he split from the party.
Apologies. It seems I overestimated your ability to DM. It's funny how our judgments can take such a 180, isn't it? Well, I regretted that my experience with D&D had started with a group like this. But you never know. I guess you live and learn. Maybe I can use this to help me avoid such toxic experiences in the future. Huh? I guess I can take this as an opportunity to be fully transparent. Kiras? More like Kier ass. You're a terrible DM. That session was disjointed, nonsensical, and poorly thought out. I was legitimately surprised when I found that everyone was praising him. Neither he nor the campaign he made was deserving of such. His ridiculous stories about his ancestors, they were mostly just complete and utter nonsense. You are such a lowly, asinine, idiotic fool. I struggle to believe how I ever could have actually helped you. But I guess we can't help the phases that come over us. Well, goodbye. I hope you experience the worst life has to offer for all eternity. I'm almost happy you lost your... Dude, who are you texting? I'm sitting right here.
In a weird way, this guy kind of reminds me of how Arcadum talks. Remember him? He's a deeply stupid person, but he uses a lot of big vocabulary words, so it results in this just really weird effect on the conversation. It's unique. I'll give him that. I've always had a big imagination, so naturally, my forever dungeon master uncle could not wait for me to be mature enough to sit still, relatively speaking, to play his 3.5/Pathfinder campaign. To get me comfortable with the rules and mechanics before joining the big party with the grown-ups, we had a short one-on-one mini-adventure that lasted about a month and a half. It was the super simple rescue the princess type game, and I enjoyed the idea of being a strong elf lady that could be pretty and still be tough. I got super attached to the DMPC my uncle had created. He was a gruff dwarf cleric to balance out my impulsive kid self and heal me when I didn't quite think a plan all the way through. Little did he know that I loved this character so much that he kind of sort of became my imaginary friend. Never thought you'd die fighting side by side with a DMPC?
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
I made up stories about our adventures together and acted them out with my toys, wrote him letters in my diary, and all the things my overactive imagination could come up with when I was lonely. Well, we eventually came to the BBEG. He's a wicked wizard keeping the princess hostage so that he can become king, and my little self was ready to be a hero. One thing to note was that my uncle chose to do all the roles in front of me, show me the character stats, and help me practice my math by doing the calculations. This helped me learn the game better and helped me with the subject I struggled with, but it meant he couldn't fudge rolls. Well, the stars aligned the worst way. The wizard rolled a natural 20 on an attack. My dwarf rolled a natural 1 to dodge, and the DMPC died. Dude was burnt to a crisp and failed every saving throw. I lost it. This is my first encounter with death in any form, and I hadn't even had a pet die yet, and my little brain was not equipped to deal with death yet. Somehow, I saved the princess and the kingdom, but the loss of my friend made it a bitter victory. It wasn't until this moment my uncle realized just how attached I'd become to this NPC. He felt like a monster. I made my uncle do an in-game funeral, and I cried my eyes out doing a little eulogy for my dwarf. I even made my dad come to the funeral even though he wasn't part of the campaign.
We are gathered here today to honor the memory of Dimly the dwarf. Dimly was a proud companion of my character. He fought with bravery, with honor, and in the end, gave his life so that all of us could have a home. Hey, I've got some dinner to cook. You know, we're going to be pretty hungry unless I finish. Hey, man, come on. Shh. Let her do her thing. Okay. All right. Farewell, Dimly. You're the best of us. Her public speaking is getting really... She's a great hero of the realms. Gotcha. Gotcha.
This started the trend of me learning important life lessons through D&D, this one specifically about how to process grief and loss. While we could have tried to resurrect him, my dad recognized how good a tool this could be to help me learn hard truths without the real world consequences. This one was nice and wholesome. We've seen so many stories about family D&D gone wrong, or worse, gone creepy. And here we see a family D&D game that's just wholesome and great. Of course, playing with kids, well, it comes with its own challenges. The uncle, for the most part, seems to have fully embraced that, even using D&D as an educational tool, which is really awesome. I'm not saying that this can fill in for an actual math class, but it's good for getting some extra practice in. However, whether it be kids or adults, sometimes you just don't expect what your players are going to get attached to. My players become attached to NPCs I never thought they'd care about. And you know what? That's what I love about D&D. When people care. There's nothing that feels better than that. A nice wholesome horror story. That's not gonna last, is it? I feel like the price of tabletop stuff is going up, and I can't keep up. I had incredible maps for my players to play on, but now I can't afford it. Only there was a company selling best of the best maps at an affordable price. Well, thank God for CzePeku. This video is sponsored by CzePeku, creators of some of the best TTRPG maps in the industry. But I bet you guys already knew that, because CzePeku just has so many subscribers to their Patreon already that I'm sure at least a few of you are amongst them. If you're not, what the heck are you waiting for? CzePeku's Patreon starts at only the $1 tier, allowing you to get access to their entire backlog of maps and every map they will release in the future. When you do this, you're not subscribed to some half-baked beta version of the project. You're getting every single map I'm showing on screen now and more, from this humble grassy crossroad to this terrifying lair of a gargantuan beholder. Of course, if you want even more, you could subscribe at higher tiers to get more variants and animated versions of the maps. No matter what tier you subscribe at, you are getting the full CzePeku package, incredible maps for your tabletop games. If you guys are interested, then you can head down into the description down below where you can pick up CzePeku's maps starting at just the $1 tier. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. Thank you so much, CzePeku, for sponsoring this episode of the show. Without further ado, I'm going to turn back into an animated rat so that we can get back to the video. This was about a month ago when I was playing in a homebrew Forgotten Realms game via a paid dungeon master a few months after the game had initially started. On the last session I had played with the group, I had some pretty bad stuff going on in real life and unfortunately brought some of that energy into the session. The dungeon master noticed that and reached out to me after the session asking if he had done anything to make my mood worse. Aw, that's nice. That's gonna end poorly, isn't it? So I explained to him that I was having problems not feeling like I was accomplishing anything because if I failed or succeeded on rolls, I just didn't get anything from it. Very often, the dungeon master was calling rolls on insight during normal conversations while I was just talking to someone and not trying to pry. My character would fail them because my dice rolls were bad, and then I'd have to awkwardly regain my tempo after being told I couldn't read the person that I hadn't been trying to read in the first place.
Hey, Crispy number 7?
Hi, yeah, that's me.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I know we all look pretty similar.
It's nice to meet you too.
Great, awesome.
What's going on? Why are we in grayscale?
Why is there a dialogue box?
You suspect deceit in their tongue.
No, I don't suspect that. I don't suspect anything.
Their eyes are filled with malice.
They were just saying hi. I do not see why I need to be so suspicious of literally everything every person says all the... Hello? Are you good? Hello?
When I succeeded on rolls, other party members would immediately jump into the scene and cut my character off from continuing their course of action. I then mentioned how, very briefly, I was having a problem with another player who constantly jumped into scenes without any warning to ask mechanical questions and divert attention away from the scene taking place, or to insert themselves into a scene without any consideration for if they should do so. The primary case being my character reuniting with their fiancé after they had been teleport spelled 80 miles past the city they were staying in, and how that bothered me since they had just had a huge arc about their village and their family, while I was still just trying to establish my character with their arc. At last, I have found my parents. I can break away from Shard's grasp and free them from... Oh, this reminds me of when I met Cazador. Starian, what? We're currently... Cazador. God, I hate that guy. You know, actually, now that I think about it, we should probably leave so we can go piss on his corpse again. It's gonna feel really good. Dude, we just did your whole plot line, okay? Can I have this? Man, this place is just really boring. Let's get out of here as soon as humanly possible. We just need to find a better spot, more specifically
It's too late to be a shard again.
The DM then proceeded to use that information to tell me how he had been DMing for 30 years, and he knew players like me who got petty and hostile at the slightest inconvenience, and how I was being unfair to my fellow players for having grievances with constantly being cut off. They then proceeded to kick me from the campaign and the server. I really have no idea if I was in the wrong or not, but their reaction felt so out of nowhere that I've been just still thinking about it. I don't blame you, man. This dungeon master asked you a good question. Hey, you seem annoyed. Are you okay? You responded, I'm assuming, with a very reasonable criticism. Look, I don't feel like I'm doing that much in the campaign, and the Dungeon Master got mad at you for it. Look, if you get criticism for your DMing, responding with the amount of time you've been DMing is useless, okay? That's great, you've been DMing for a while, but if you really have been DMing for that long, you should be able to adequately explain why what you're doing is okay. It's especially annoying because, dude, this isn't just some player. This is a paying customer. You owe them an explanation if they have a problem with your game. That's kind of what you sign up for when you become a paid DM. You'd think if this guy was DMing for 30 years, he would know that. In my first attempt to join a campaign, things quickly became problematic. The Dungeon Master displayed racist undertones from the start. When a player joined the voice call and agreed with what sounded like a black accent, all the player said was, "What's up?" I don't know why, but the Dungeon Master's response was, "Yeah, what's up, cuz? Yeah, I've got black friends, so it's fine." This led to awkward silence.
Hey man, what's up? Yeah, what's up? I have black friends. What? Yeah. I have black friends. Do you carry that around? I just want you to know it's really important that you understand that I do in fact have black friends. Okay, lots of them. So you know.
Initially, the campaign seemed promising. It was apparently Spelljammer with homebrew elements. The Dungeon Master introduced dragons as progenitors of time, like Akatosh from Skyrim. Despite the Dungeon Master's previous behavior, the storyline would have kept me going. However, the real issue surfaced during character creation. The DM insisted on starting the session immediately, leaving little time for any sort of character developing. This was a minor annoyance, mostly because I like at least setting aside a few hours to come up with a decent character. Dude, my best characters and settings come from at least a week of thinking about it on and off. You know, you come up with an initial idea, and then you refine it. I'm not saying everyone needs to do that, but less than an hour? Yeah, get ready for some boring characters, man. Anyway, I decided to go with a lizard folk monk. As I neared completion, another player pointed out the Dungeon Master calling us the players you people, leading to the DM replying with, "Shut up, I didn't mean your race. I'm black, so I can freely say the N-word as much as I want." Nah, just kidding. I'm not black.
First of all, you happen to be white.
Like, dude, really? The other players seemed fine with the Dungeon Master's joke, so I'm thinking it's me. I'm just being self-conscious. Later on, I find out that the campaign setting revolves around slavery, racism, classism, and the campaign's basically the American flag, but turned 90 degrees. How is this anywhere even related to Spelljammer? I have no idea. I played light of... Dude, there are too many X's and too many Y's in that one. Zarexis? I tried. Anyway, maybe this is some other Spelljammer version. Maybe Skyrim? Yeah, no, this isn't Skyrim. Though racism and religious freedoms play a role in Skyrim's Civil War, it's not to this degree. But since it came up, I am curious. Imperial or Stormcloak? Like, I don't know. The situation worsened when the Dungeon Master introduced a memes channel. Oh, yeah. The DM posted a Spider-Man voiceover that, you guessed it, pointed out every stereotype about black people. I can understand a bit of dark humor, but I felt like this was too much. The DM tried to play it off and say, no, this video isn't talking about black people, and sends another video, Jujutsu Kaisen, once again talking about monkeys, only this time it's like money collecting monkeys and curse collecting monkeys. I've only seen the first few episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen. Do they classify people in these categories? The video did actually have monkeys, so I guess I'm just overreacting to that second video. But come on, the first video? That was not okay. Anyways, the players started posting memes similar to the Dungeon Masters, and ultimately, I reached my breaking point and left. I wish the DM posted that this would be a slavery-focused campaign, or at the very least, mention extremely dark humor. Last time I checked, humor is supposed to be funny. Though, to be fair, I don't think writing, "I'm going to be racist," in your LFG post is going to attract that many players. Just my honest thoughts. It felt so weird that everyone else seemed to be meshing well with the Dungeon Master and his humor, but I was the outcast feeling uncomfortable at the situation. But yeah, TLDR, a racist DM makes offensive jokes in a slavery-focused storyline. Uncomfortable memes lead to me leaving the campaign. In case you can't tell, this kind of humor annoys the heck out of me. It's cringy. I don't really know how else to say it. It comes off like middle school crap. But, at the same time, if these guys enjoy middle school crap, then fine. Alright, they can do that in the comfort and privacy of their own game. But you don't have to be a part of it. You can just leave, and you know what? That's what you did, and that was the right call to make. It's just the least amount of inconvenience for everyone there. I've had to do the same thing. People have in the past made jokes about my, I don't know how to describe this, my Asian-ness, and you know what? I just don't have the energy to try to confront people over that, man. I'm just gonna walk away and leave them on red forevermore. A friend of mine asked to join a game he was dungeon mastering because his players were having some difficulty understanding the game mechanics as they applied to roleplay. This friend and I, as well as other players, were all fans of free roleplay and often employed a storyteller to adjudicate any attempted god mode moments. The players were used to someone being in charge, but they weren't yet used to being the main character. Essentially, they were each trying to play Dungeons & Dragons as if it was an MMO or another video game wherein everything existed for the protagonist. None of the players were really taking over the scenes over each other, but they did tend to treat everything grabbable as intended for their exclusive use. The Dungeon Master gave me a rundown of the current game and the player characters. It was a pirate-themed campaign. The characters had their own ship with only one NPC assisting them. Names changed because I can't remember everyone. Vyre, the captain, a half-elf, half-vampire fighter rogue. The player chose this ironically because he hated edgelords and wanted to roleplay the right way. If you guessed that this is the problem player, you're correct! This reminds me that every time I see an incel getting in actual trouble with, like, the law, it's always a guy that looks identical to what you'd expect. Armos, first mate, a minotaur. The Dungeon Master did not account for monster levels when allowing the player to create his character. This was 3.5. He had 6 full monster levels plus 9 barbarian levels, essentially making him level 15 while everyone else was level 9. This is a Dungeon Master problem, not a player problem, in my opinion. I share your opinion. Wizrobe. I don't remember what her ship role was or what her race/class was. She was a chaotic good character, but really did whatever she wanted at all times. The player was notorious for God mode in the free roleplay, and as a previous post-game wrap-up wrote about her character, ascended to actual godhood. Also a loot goblin, not actually the problem player in this story. Gorilla, no idea what his ship role was. He was a druid, really not a problem, so I don't remember much about him. Lionel, a player... Wait a minute! Lionel, Wizrobe, oh my god. We have a Zelda nerd. I respect it. This player had bad internet. He was also narcoleptic. Also, not a problem. The Dungeon Master and I planned my character intro prior to the next session. The character, Tektite, was a water snake Yuan-Ti-like race and was going to hide in the bilge of the ship on the next island the crew went to. They were supposed to find her after hearing unexplained noises or noticing supplies missing. But even with a map of the ship that included the bilge, none of them checked. I mean, to be fair, I completely walked past Gale in Baldur's Gate 3 because I saw an unexplained portal and noped right the heck out of it. So I get it. Anyway, the player for Vyre knew nothing of how ships worked and had no idea what a bilge was, so he ignored it in the search and any clues leading to it. I eventually say that they catch my character stealing food so we can just move on. Later on in the adventure, Tektite, a rogue/dread pirate, joined the party in their world saving. Vyre decided that as a pirate captain without a ship, Tektite was the new first mate and would mentor him on how to run a ship. Good roleplay had by all, including some in-character reprimanding of the loot goblin by reminding her that taking things from people without asking is stealing, and not befitting of a good character. The purpose of my addition seems to have worked. Then, the downtime stories started. Vyre's player decided that he would write up a story about how much Vyre and Tektite had worked together and developed a romantic relationship. I didn't think anything that we had done up until that point warranted a romantic relationship, and I told him so, but I was fine going that direction if he wanted to roleplay that way going forward. It actually went really well. I thought it was great fun and built party cohesion, and Vyre didn't get all broody and edgy at all when Tektite flirted with NPCs to get what they wanted. But the player behind Vyre, oh boy, he could not separate roleplay from out-of-character stuff. The character bleed was strong. It became clear that he was not playing an edgelord just in the game. No one really interacted with him outside the game because he was just...
I can't see if this is a good shot.
Well, he was really just self-centered and boring. In private messages, after a while, he expressed that he felt like he and I were the only ones who could actually roleplay a relationship because we were the only ones to, and I quote, have had the benefit of having sex. That's gonna age poorly. If he had bothered at all to get to know the other party members, he would have known that wasn't true, by the way. No one really talked, to him at least, about their personal life, but I mentioned that I was married in the public chat, so he felt like he had an idea of what my private life was like. Meanwhile, I'm helping Armos' player in private messages on communication with his one-night stand that wanted more. See, it wasn't just the roleplay of my character he fell in love with. He decided he liked me too, even though our out-of-game communication was very limited. He knew I was married, but repeatedly tried to convince me that my husband didn't really understand me. Why? Because I made an offhanded comment in the public chat, not to him privately, about how back when we were younger, when I was introducing my friend group to D&D and role-playing games, I mentioned that a younger version of my husband thought roleplay was only for the bedroom.
This stuff is crazy. Only role-playing I know about's in the bedroom.
Bedroom?
What?
You dare disrespect the sanctity of role-playing games. You are an absolute disgrace. You don't understand the complex nuance.
Dude.
Your humor is a disgrace to everything that I hold dear. You are an absolute
I was joking.
You are an absolute monster, and I really want to bone your wife. Wait, what?
Seriously, nice guy types like this link onto those small details all the time to get what they want. One girl I knew, she made raunchy jokes sometimes, and the nice guy used that as an excuse to demand her nudes. Doesn't matter if it's a stretch, they'll stretch. At one point in the game, in a battle way too hard for our level, Tektite, Vyre, and Wizrobe, we all died. The remaining players pooled money together but did not have enough to bring anybody back. I suggested to the Dungeon Master that he include the reincarnation spell and showed him the table. He was on board, so we rolled. I chose to retire Tektite, and Wizrobe quit the game after that fight, so the only other player that needed to be brought back was Vyre. Vyre's player was not happy with his result from the table, and he chose instead to reincarnate as his same race of Fey Vampire, but as a woman. After that, the game didn't last much longer with my friend as Dungeon Master. Vyre's player rallied the other players against the Dungeon Master for not paying enough attention to the game, relying too much on roleplay for content, and building encounters that make no sense. Vyre's probably being a douche, but from what little I see about the DM, they're not perfect at the job. Though, this isn't about the DM, so who knows, they might be great. But yeah, some of these mistakes just ooze new DM to me. Vyre then decided that everyone needed to go to my server and have me as Dungeon Master for the same characters. I said that might work. I just wrote a "you get sent to a parallel universe" storyline and gave the players the option to rewrite their characters as their new parallel selves. Lionel's player went with a mirror approach and had an anti-paladin. We decided that upon entering the next dimension, these two versions of him would merge, and when his internet dropped, he'd switch personalities. Goria and Armos decided they didn't want to bother and just were fine with whatever I did. Vyre's player wrote a 7-page story about his full vampire alternate being in a romantic relationship with the alternate Tektite. They even had a Dara together, but Tektite didn't survive the... Great, that's awesome. Didn't survive the birthing. He named his weapons after her, and he was the captain of the ship of the dead, where his now undead wife and their half-vampire daughter raided unwary travelers with their zombie fleet. I told him no. Wow, a horrible romance where a woman is robbed entirely of her autonomy for the sake of a man's twisted desires? Are we sure this guy isn't gender-swapped Colleen Hoover? I did not consent to my characters being written by him and had my own plans for them. I was willing to work with him on some ideas because I was already planning on having an undead ship attack, and his character can be the captain of that. But the other stuff was gone. He begged that the relationship stay because the thought that he and I gone so well that he wanted the relationship to be canon even in this other universe. I said no. I had other plans, and that trying to explain this to him felt way too much like breaking up with someone that was just plain creepy. The conversation ended there. The sessions went on as planned. They eventually made it to the encounter with the undead ship. After some failed diplomacy from Vyre, a battle ensued. Vyre's player made many out-of-character decisions to try to get Tektite killed. The paladin attempted to turn undead, and they had him do some rolls to see if he destroyed the vampire captain. I don't know how it works in older editions, but turn undead wouldn't kill the vampire, unless he's a very weak vampire, which based on his reaction to rejection, isn't too far off base. He did beat the DCs, and Vyre's alternate was turned to ash, the zombies as well. Vyre's player was not happy. He wanted this parallel character to be his new character, wanted Vyre to die so he could propose the replacement. He complained for weeks outside the chat about how the rulings of things should have gone rules as written for turn undead versus a player character. Never mind, the vampire pirate captain wasn't a player character, and DM's decisions be damned. Sessions continued, and Vyre's player was obviously checked out from not getting their way. Vyre's attitude towards anyone, player character, or NPC boiled down to, I am the captain, do what I say. It was probably more like, I am the captain, do what I say. No one wanted to engage with the edgelording character to calm them down. One of the other players asked if he could start a mutiny. I had him do a few checks to see if the NPCs, they had a proper ship crew now, rescued from the undead encounter, that would go along with it, and they did. The player worked with the other players. Vyre's character, of course, thought this was all a plot by me, even though the other players were running the whole mutiny. He played through it though. He surrendered and left the game as his character was left at port. The next day I had a long private message about what could have been. We could have had a great storyline together, that I should leave my husband for a real man that understands me, that he doesn't blame the other players at all for their choices, that he knows I forced them into it, and so on. Just a bunch of psychotic babbling about how I'm the worst and best thing that's ever happened to him, and I've scarred him now forever, but he still loves me. Meanwhile, my married, asexual, autistic self is still wondering how in the heck he got any impression I was interested in him. Yeah, guys like this also happen to ignore multiple aspects of you as a person while they're quote-unquote falling in love with you. Bet this guy had no idea this person was asexual, though given that he was still hitting on her despite the fact that she's married, man, that says a lot about him. He probably would not have cared. He probably would have thought it's something that he could quote-unquote fix. Look, I genuinely believe D&D is one of the best group bonding activities I have ever participated in my life. That is no exaggeration. I've grown so close with my friends through this game. I'm also positive this game can lead to healthy relationships. However, D&D games and tabletop role-playing games, in fact, games in general, in fact, most things in life are supplementary to relationships. The bond between two people goes further than we get along during this one specific event. I feel like a lot of people love the concept of a person, you know, their interests and such, rather than loving the person themselves. And that is an example of this here, made, of course, way worse by the lack of, you know, reciprocation. Ugh, just gross all around. And that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Shadow over Carconos D&D podcast. The full adventure is linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And then finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. No one needs fixing to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in SSR, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.
We are gathered here to gay. To gay? We are gathered here to gay.